breaking news into the Fanfare newsfeed.
So thank you very much. We had some amazing things happen today. As you know, my son is graduating from high school, and it looks like the judge will not let me go to the graduation of my son, who's worked very, very hard. He's a great student. He's very proud of the fact that he did so well, and was looking forward for years to have graduation with his mother and father there. And it looks like the judges are going to allow me to escape this scam. It's a scam trial. If you read all of the legal pundits, all of the legal scholars today, there's not one that I see that said this is a case that should be brought or tried. It's a scam. It's a political witch hunt. It continues, and it continues forever. And we're not going to be given a fair trial. It's a very, very sad thing. In addition, as you know, next Thursday, we're before the United States Supreme Court on a very big hearing on immunity. And this is something that we've been waiting for a long time. And the judge, of course, is not going to allow us. He's a very conflicted judge. And he's not going to allow us to go to that. He won't allow me to leave here for a half a day, go to D.C. and go before the United States Supreme Court because he thinks he's superior, I guess, to the Supreme Court. We got a real problem with this judge. We have a real problem with a lot of things having to do with this trial, including the DA, because you go right outside and people are being mugged and killed all day long, and he's sitting here all day with about 10 or 12 prosecutors over nothing. Over nothing. Over what people say shouldn't be a trial. So I just want to thank you very much. But that I can't go to my son's graduation, or that I can't go to the United States Supreme Court, that I'm not in Georgia or Florida or North Carolina campaigning like I should be. It's perfect for the radical left Democrats. That's exactly what they want. This is about election interference. That's all it's about. Thank you very much.
What happened to Donald Trump today was simply outrageous. There's no other word to use. It was outrageous. Lately, I've been asking myself, am I still living in America? I have to ask because I'm seriously not recognizing this country anymore. The insane judge in the New York trial just ruled that Donald Trump can't even go to his child's high school graduation. Barry Trump is graduating in May, and he said, nope, you can't go. You need to be here every single day. He didn't even allow him to go to his son's high school graduation, something that only happens once in your lifetime. And Donald Trump cannot go to Barry Trump's high school graduation. To me, that's completely outrageous in a case that there's no victims. We're not talking about a, murder. We're not talking about a burglary. We're not talking about anything. Nobody was hurt. And they won't even allow him to go to his son's graduation. They're treating him actually they're treating him worse than a common criminal. It makes absolutely no sense. The media, they're laughing their heads off and enjoying the show. I have a piece to show you in a little bit that will shock you. What they're doing is absolutely criminal. And I just don't understand how they're getting away with this circus here in America. In addition to not letting him go to his son's high school graduation, the judge also said that Donald Trump can't appear at his hearing next week with the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court of the United States has a hearing about his immunity case, and they're saying, Donald Trump, you're not allowed to go there either. You need to be sitting here in New York. It is completely beyond the pale. Watching this travesty unfold is absolutely shocking. And there's no way he's going to get a fair jury in New York City.
But what's happened so far, the first group of 96 prospective jurors, over 50 of them were immediately released because they do not believe that they can serve impartially. One woman from Harlem was later excused during the questioning for having a strong opinion about Trump. Another man...
Imagine what he just said. I mean, just take it into account. They brought in 96 potential jurors, 96 of them, and 50 of them were excluded on the very first day. Over half of the jury pool couldn't serve because they had an extreme bias against Donald Trump. Just imagine that. How do they expect that there's going to be any sort of equitable, proceeding here? These people are going to be stuffed with people who hate Trump, regardless of who they are, no matter what they say in the voir dire. They are going to be stacking this jury with Trump-hating people. 50 of them were so bad they couldn't even seat them on the first day. That's incredible.
His child is getting married in Seattle during the trial. The jury selection process, Neil, will take 1 to 2 weeks in a borough, Manhattan, where Trump received just 12% of the vote in 2020.
Now understand that. In a borough in Manhattan where Trump only received 12% of the vote in the last election. 12%. 88% of the people went the other way. And you're going to have to try and find that 12% of people to get 1 or 2 on the jury so that he has a representative jury, you know, of his peers. That's what it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be of your peers, not everybody who dislikes you, not so that you can get a certain conviction. This is insane.
Arrived in court this morning, needs to be here every day so long as this trial lasts, which is expected to take between 6 and 8 weeks. Today in court, Trump didn't show too much emotion, but
6 to 8 weeks. That's going to take us to June. They want him parked in New York City until June.
Seemed to be more engaged during the jury selection after lunch.
So what he just said there was that during the jury selection after lunch, he seemed to be quite engaged, meaning he was paying attention, wanted to be involved, wanted to see who was saying what potential jurors that they could probably select, which jurors they should probably, you know, get rid of. Remember, he just said that because then on CNN, unbelievably, Maggie Haberman went on CNN and she said this.
Yeah, I have to ask, you guys have been, at the Times, have been live blogging this event. And 40 minutes ago, you wrote an observation that I was very surprised. Trump appears to be sleeping. His head keeps dropping down and his mouth goes slack.
Now understand, Maggie Haberman works for the New York Times. She's on CNN. She runs to go tell Jake Tapper that Trump has been sleeping. He looks like he's disheveled, doesn't know what's going on. Now understand, in this case, in this courtroom, since it's not televised, there's probably dozens of reporters sitting right there. You just heard a second ago from the Fox reporter. If Donald Trump was sleeping during the trial, don't you think there would have been, I don't know, maybe 25 other reporters who would have written or said something about, hey, Donald Trump was sleeping during the trial. He couldn't even stay awake. Don't you think somebody else would have been reporting about this? Nope. She's the only one. She's the only one in the courtroom who was astute enough who could see that Donald Trump was sleeping. Sleeping, she says. But it gets worse how she describes his demeanor in the courtroom.
Tell us about that.
Tell us about that.
Well, Jake, he appeared to be asleep, and you know, repeatedly his head would fall down. There have been other moments in other trials, like the E.G. Carroll trial, which was around the corner in January, where he appeared very still and seemed as if he might be sleeping, but then he would move. This time, he didn't pay attention to a note that his lawyer Todd Blanche passed him. His jaw kept falling on his chest, and his mouth kept.
His jaw kept falling on his chest. He looked like he was sleeping. He wasn't paying attention to the notes that were passed to him by the attorney. But she's the only person who saw this. And she runs to CNN and noticed that Jake Tapper doesn't push back whatsoever. It's been said, it's now out there. You know what happens after that? It gets on Twitter and everybody starts pushing this, that Donald Trump, you know, talk about Sleepy Joe, Donald Trump could not stay awake in his own trial. It's all over the place. Gazillion posts, tweets, whatever you want to call them, are all over Twitter because Maggie Haberman, the only reporter to supposedly see Donald Trump sleeping, goes on CNN and Jake Tapper doesn't say anything about it.
Slack. Now, you know, sometimes people do fall asleep during court proceedings, but it's notable given the intensity of this morning.
It's notable given the intensity. Again, she's the only one who has said this, Drew.
And a lot of what was being argued.
Yeah, that's rather surprising.
Yeah, it's rather surprising. Did you ask her if it was true? Hey, Maggie, here's a question, Jake, you could have asked her. Hey, Maggie, I haven't heard this from anybody else. Where were you sitting in the court that allowed you to get this vantage point of the guy sitting in the front row? You obviously weren't in a witness stand. You obviously weren't part of the jury. You obviously aren't part of the judge. You weren't a clerk. So you're behind Donald Trump. Understand, everybody that ran with this story on Twitter never seemed to get the fact that how the hell did Maggie Haberman even think that Donald Trump was sleeping? If you've seen this courtroom, you could understand the defendant sits up front, the prosecutor sits up front. Maggie Haberman doesn't have a seat up front looking this way at Donald Trump. So she is behind Donald Trump somewhere in this courtroom. Maybe directly, maybe off to the right, maybe off to the left, but she is behind Donald Trump. And she just went on television and said that he looked slack-jawed, his head was falling, and he appeared to be sleeping with no ability to actually see this man's face. Then she goes on a national news network like CNN and says, you know, he was sleeping. And of course, Jake Tapper goes, yeah, that sounds really bad. Come on, people. Are we at that point in our lives at this point as Americans where you're just willing to go on CNN and lie about anything? And are we at such a state of a country at this point where people will take what Maggie Haberman says without even thinking, wow, where was Maggie Haberman sitting? How could she possibly have seen this guy's face? What about the other 30 or 40 people in the courtroom were taking notes and, you know, they may not have had cameras, but where are they to corroborate her story? Nobody asks. It's a complete outrageous circus. Don't listen to any of them. And unless I pointed this out, would you have even thought to yourself, well, Maggie Haberman said it, she might be telling the truth, and she's got x-ray vision because she can see around corners. Understand what is going on here in the court, in the media, all over the place, to do nothing but taint this guy as basically Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Am I a little hot about this? Yeah, I'm really upset because when I heard that he wasn't even going to be allowed to go see his son's graduation, it just ticked me off. I know what it would mean to a father to see his son graduate from high school. I mean, it's amazing that this would even be something that the judge would rule against. Again, we're not talking about a lifelong criminal here. We're not talking about somebody shooting somebody. We're not even talking about somebody ripping anybody off. I would venture to say those people get to go see their son and daughter at a high school graduation. But Donald Trump? No, we can't have that. We can't have you out there. That would be absolutely beyond the pale for you to go to your son's high school graduation. We want you right here for all 8 weeks so we can destroy your campaign. Unbelievable. But there's more. Well, I guess we all have to get used to it. It seems as though the powers that be want to shut me up as well. All of a sudden, with no notice, boom, my videos seem to be getting suppressed. So make sure you share this video with your friends. I don't know what the hell is going on with YouTube, but all of a sudden, overnight, it's like I got the zip him up, shut him up treatment. Must mean I was actually making some things happen, but I can't say how much longer I'm going to be able to talk. And if you think all of this is going to end with Donald Trump, you're completely oblivious. Don't make that mistake in thinking this is going to end with Donald Trump.
Judge Juan Merchan made several rulings in the morning session. He chose not to recuse himself after allegations of bias by the Trump team.
Now, can you imagine that? Can you imagine that this judge is basically making a decision about himself? No, I'm not good. I'm not guilty. I'm good. Don't worry about it. Carry on here. But Judge, we'd like you to get off this case because of the history with your daughter and her involvement with the Democrat Party and raising $90 million. Nah, that's good. I'm good. And there's nothing that Donald Trump can do about it. It's scary.
He also said he'll hear arguments about a possible gag order violation next Tuesday. That's related to 3 separate social media posts by the former president.
So Maggie Haberman can run to CNN and she can get out there and spew whatever she wants in regards to, you know, him sleeping. But Donald Trump can't talk about anything. So now we're going to have another trial inside of a trial where they're going to determine if Donald Trump violated the gag order, which they could also put him in jail for. It's unreal.
Rashawn ruled the 2016 Access Hollywood tape cannot be played in court, but evidence related to payments made to former Playboy model Karen McDougal can be used. Judge Mershon said Michael Cohen's 2018 guilty plea to federal campaign finance violations cannot be used as evidence of President Trump's guilt. Cohen's credibility will be central in this trial. Prosecutors will have to...
Cohen's credibility is central in his trial. Understand it, earlier in the day, I made a video talking about Michael Cohen and his credibility. I cannot believe that this guy, this Judas, is who they're putting everything on. But it doesn't matter because the jury that they put in place is going to convict Donald Trump anyway.
Wait for Trump's lawyers to bring up his credibility first before they can respond. Now, again, Trump arrived this morning. He spoke briefly before entering the courtroom, very critical of President Joe Biden, who he says is weaponizing the Department of Justice against him and interfering with the upcoming presidential election.
You think? I mean, seriously, can anybody at this point doubt that? No, you can't. There's no way you can doubt that at this point.
Something that former President Trump will have to balance, given the fact that he is required to be in court every single day. Will begin again tomorrow at 9:30 in the morning.
And so it begins all over again tomorrow. It's the same charade. It's going to get worse every single day. I don't see the light at the end of the tunnel for Donald Trump, except there are people out there who are understanding what's going on, and they're letting people know, whether they listen, whether they have a big enough megaphone. Maybe my megaphone isn't big enough anymore, but we have to let people know what's really going on because they're being gaslit amazingly. Check this out.
It would be nice to hear a Democrat get honest here and say, we get it. This case is bogus, purely political, but we're okay with it.
Yeah, I wish people would stop blowing smoke up everybody's you-know-what. Just be men and women about it and say, we don't care that it looks this way. All we want is a conviction of Donald Trump. We just want him out the way. I'd respect you if you actually came out and said it.
Right? We're just trying to bring Trump down or we'll lose the election. Just admit it. Our campaign strategy is to eliminate his campaign strategy.
They know full well that Dementia Joe cannot possibly get out there and campaign and beat Donald Trump toe-to-toe. They know he's not going to do any debates. They know all this. And what they're trying to do is keep him off the campaign trail so that there's no possibility of a date. Hey, listen, you have all these court hearings you have to go to. There's no way we can fit this into the schedule, because even though we know that, Dementia Joe has been to the beach like 40% of his time in office, we just can't fit in any debates with your court hearings.
Saw, 50 of the jurors dismissed out of 96? So the location of the trial, right? If that didn't matter, then why the resistance to move it, and why are you seeing so many people drop out? Because
let me just explain to you what he just said. If you think that you've got the goods, if you think that anybody, an impartial jury, would convict Donald Trump, why wouldn't you move it, I don't know, to say Albany, Syracuse, somewhere out there, and pick a jury at random that might be a little bit more equitable, more fair? Why, if your case is that good, why do you need to keep it in Manhattan? Of course you know the answer to that. They keep it in Manhattan because they know they can taint the jury pool and they can get their conviction. That's why.
Mattered more than the evidence to the people doing this. What about the biases of the prosecutors who are obviously actively Democrats? Media didn't want to report, still doesn't report that at all. Why?
I talked about that this morning. They're all Democrats. Prosecutors, judges, investigators, Fannie Willis, same thing, Letitia James, Judge Ergonon, they're all Democrats. It's all one-sided. The media won't talk about it. This isn't fair.
Because that matters to them more than the evidence. Yeah, this is not a federal crime, expired misdemeanor. The strangest thing about this to me is Michael Cohen being like the lead witness.
Judas.
The person in charge of giving the legal advice to the defendant is a witness to the crime, as well as being the responsible party for the crime.
He did the crime.
It's like the hospital suing the patient for a surgeon's malpractice. It makes no sense to me.
This is the most corrupt prosecution. The judge, you had everybody hits on this. This is a guy who ran on getting Donald Trump.
They all did. You notice Letitia James did the same thing. We got to get Trump. Fannie Willis, got to get Trump. All financed by George Soros. Got to get Trump. There's no differentiation here. There's no hiding it anymore.
He's a Democrat. The judge is a Democrat donor. His family's getting paid by the Biden campaign, got paid by Adam Schiff. And the jury pool's 90% Democrat. And the store witness is a stone cold felon and a liar.
A stone cold felon liar. The judge said he was an amazing perjurial problem. That's how bad Michael Cohen has been looked at.
And the jury pool is basically like the OJ jury pool. You're going to have people trying to wiggle into that jury and send a message.
I'm telling you, they're stacking the jury. I heard an interview today with Alina Habba, one of Donald Trump's attorneys, and she said, and they couldn't even do anything about it, that they were putting on the jury people who were actually Biden operatives. No joke. This thing is in the tank. It's already done. It's going to happen. Make no mistake. They are going to do everything they can to basically put Donald Trump in jail.
Pathetic, petty, self-harming acts of political suicide I've ever witnessed. Donald
I love the way he just said that. It's a political act of suicide. They don't even see it coming. They're not going to see it coming. They're going to do everything they can, basically, to put him in jail, suppress people like me, because they don't even see it coming.
Trump should go to his son's graduation. Right? Go to the graduation. Honestly, if you're watching President Trump, just go to the graduation. Every parent in America, whether they like you or hate you, will go, yeah, I'd have done that too. Because this case is utterly ridiculous. I always thought if this was the one that came up first, there are plenty of reasons to criticize Trump. There are plenty of cases down the line where there's probably a more serious case against him. This is completely nonsensical to me.
It's nonsensical to everybody except Alvin Bragg and his cohorts. It makes no sense whatsoever. Just like the other thing with Letitia James, there's no victims here. There's no crime. But they're basically just concocting ways to get Trump arrested and put in jail. There is no crime.
That you would take a former president of the United States and you would put him in a courtroom over hush money to potentially a one-night stand porn star. And if he's found guilty, he may get a 10-year prison sentence. Have you all lost your minds?
Yes. Piers Morgan is correct. When he puts it that way, he lays it out, you have to just look at it and go, you guys have lost your minds. You basically have the most enormous case of TDS ever known to man. This is absolutely incredible, but it tells you a lot. It means Dementia Joe, it cannot beat him. Wait until they see the polls after this charade happens.
America. What a demeaning way to treat a former president anyway. But secondly, if you're on the left, why would you think this would possibly work? Why would you not think that what you're doing here is going to almost guarantee Donald Trump wins the next election? The only thing that could absolutely guarantee it is if he's found guilty and put in a prison cell. Because at that moment, Trump wins by a landslide.
I believe that as well. If the guy goes to jail and he's sitting there with an orange jumpsuit, I'm still voting for him. And I think tens and hundreds of millions of other people will feel the same way. This is absurd. We can see it being absurd. The only people who don't are sitting in studios in New York and Washington and are looking for different ways they can clear the deck for Dementia Joe to win. The people, normal people with a functioning brain, understand this is insane and we can't let this happen. Like I said, I don't know how much longer they're going to let me keep doing videos, but you got to spread this message. People are getting just out of hand with this. It makes no sense to somebody who can actually see what's happening. You're seeing someone being convicted and taken advantage of as if he was Jack the Ripper. I don't know what happened between him and Stormy Daniels. I don't care. What I do care about is that there are people in New York who are being thrown down church stairs and getting no bail, getting released over and over and over again. There are people, the newcomers, beating up cops. just getting released. This, a former president, and it's like you want to put him in a Chateau d'If. I hope I said that right. If you guys remember the book, The Count of Monte Cristo, they just want to put him away. Get rid of him. Let him no longer be in public view. I hope Donald Trump uses every minute of his case to basically get in front of cameras. In fact, I'd like to see him rent out Madison Square Garden if they'd let him have it. Go into Madison Square Garden once or twice a week and do a rally. It would be packed. It would be amazing. I may even fly up to New York to go to it. He is going to be a convert. I would think it almost would be like a Billy Graham type of convention. You're going to get all these people who come say, hey, this guy's not bad. He's got some great ideas. I think I'm going to take the invitation and walk up. This has to end. This entire charade is way beyond the pale, as I've said a couple times here, and I'm simply over it. Let me know what you think. This is just the first day. This is just day one. The trial hasn't even started yet. And I had to make 2 videos. I may have to do 3 videos a day to get the word out to you guys. If that's what it takes, count me in. Talk to you soon.